Hi, this is Eric, and this is a presentation on learning and transactional leadership. This presentation is the collective effort of Group 6. It's Mary, Morgan, DeAndre, and myself. We're presenting um, based on two studies. The first one is dealing with organizational learning, and the second one, leadership communication. Uh, Ideally, by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to define the key components of the third way of learning that's going to be discussed in the first article. Understand how different approaches to organizational learning are part of leadership as practice. Distinguish positive methods of transactional leader communication. And link positive communication to enacting workplace creativity and innovation. The last two we'll address in the second article. In early literature, organizational learning is defined as an individual act, individual's acquisition of information and knowledge, very much an every man for himself type of context. In, in this in this slide, sort of Batman symbolizes that individualistic approach to learning. Um, but as we see in the research, um, organizations are much more productive when individuals act in the best interest of the organization or the institution collaboratively and in conjunction with their peers or their coworkers. Um, Two metaphors of learning exist in the context of in the context of organizational learning framed in this particular study. That's acquisition and participation. These two metaphors can be found in the learning theories of organizational learning, and they're also instrumental in leadership as practice. Uh, the first and second ways organizations learn are a bit more individualistic than the third. So the first way is individuals' um, skills and knowledge acquisition um, take place within the organization of the system, such as required professional development workshops or organizational training sessions. Uh, these are required um, components of the organization. The, some sort of learning through a required organizational resource. The second way of learning is when individuals take the initiative to join communities of practice. Uh, the focus of the paper, though, of the study is the third way organizations learn. And the third way is defined as the development of experience and knowledge by inquiry or reflective thinking in social worlds held together by commitment, and that's institutional commitment or organizational commitment. This involves thinking reflectively and introspectively. One of the practical implications of the third way of organizational learning is to bring intuition and emotion to the foreground in organizational development and learning. The implication for research is to work with situations and events as units of analysis, specifically in order to understand individuals and organizations as being related in such a way that they're mutually forming and formed. Intuition and emotion, these are key to organizational learning. They're triggers that incite individuals to learn, and individuals must feel they're part of the community to effectively and efficiently learn. Um, Leaders must acknowledge that individuals within the organization are related in a transactional way. And this occurs through their interaction uh, in such a way that no organizational change can be initiated without short or possibly long-term consequences for both the individuals and the group or the organization. This what we call this third way of learning, it cannot happen without individuals feeling invested in or emotionally tied to the organization. It's the responsibility of the leadership to foster and encourage this culture. Um, the third way of learning is the development of experience and knowledge by inquiry, and it's really held together by these four components. It's trust, and that's trust in the organization, trust in the leadership, trust in the peers, the coworkers. Secondly, a sense of institutional or organizational commitment. Third, some level of emotional investment in both the leadership and the members of the organization and in the organization as a whole. And finally, dedication, legitimate and real dedication to the success of the organization. Um, we have this sense of emotional buy-in, like buy-in. Individuals are invested in and feel compelled to ensure the success of the organization because they feel part of a community within that organization. They want to focus as productive members of that organization. Uh, this leads us into the second topic that I want to discuss today, and that's leader communication. Underlying organizational leadership is the ability of that leadership to efficiently and effectively communicate with those individuals being led. The second article um, that this presentation is addressing is dealing with leader talk and what's called the creative spark. So, um, leader use of motivating or motivational language is directly or positively related with the worker's perception of a productive and creative environment, leading to positive organizational behavioral outcomes. What that means is um, when the workers feel um, when the workers feel part of the community, they're more likely to work towards the success of the organization as a whole. Now, motivating leader language takes on three dynamic characteristics, and that's direction giving, empathy, and meaning making. When all of these are effectively in place, often this will lead to a creative environment and creative environment perceptions by the followers. And by followers, I mean those being led. In order to have a creative environment perception, the followers must feel that they have the support for their creativity, not only from their coworkers, but from the leadership. And the work characteristics must promote creativity within the job, such that the followers have a sense of organizational commitment, and it's really the leader's responsibility to remove any blocks to the creativity. Uh, Direction giving language is transparent in its specificity regarding how and when tasks need to be accomplished. Empathetic language supports emotional bonds in the workplace, and this in turn fosters transactional relationships. And I'm actually back on the last slide. Meaning making language. This is what really creates that emotional buy-in from followers by linking personal goals to the larger organizational structure. Collectively, these three communication aspects, these result in positive communicative leader practices. At the end of the day, the goal of leader talk is to create a positive culture in the workplace. This the type of communication from leaders, it should be motivational, should be supportive to a positive work environment, and supportive to the creativity in the workplace. Motivating leader language, it has shown a direct relationship with increased perception of the worker's environment, which in turn leads to the ability to contribute in a positive, productive, and creative way. The creative contributions, they show employees that they can eliminate any blocks and change their workplace atmosphere when appropriate. This will facilitate people to be emotionally invested in what they're doing, leading to enhanced member engagement and productivity. The higher the sense of organizational and institutional commitment, the higher the chances for successful levels of productivity and creativity. And the benefit of positive and motivating leader language is, like I mentioned before, is employee creativity. Creativity, in turn, it's a vital path to employee well-being, organizational innovation, competitive advantage. Numerous inventions that are used daily are a product of motivating leader talk, again, resulting in workplace creativity. Without the ability to be creative and the support to follow their inventions through, we would not have many valuable tools and pleasures at our disposal. So, to summarize our discussion, this third way of learning, this way of organizational learning that really resides on institutional and organizational commitment by the individual workers, or the individuals in the organization, feeling emotionally or in some way invested in the success of the organization, can contribute to learning as practice. Uh, Knowledge, so the acquisition of knowledge, it can be acquired, it can be participatory. Ideally, it's occurring in some sort of collaborative fashion, which is supported by the leadership. Third, any type of operational learning in an organization, it can impact the member individually, but not necessarily. More than likely, it will impact the group. But with this, what we call the third way of learning, uh, it's not the priority of the individual to better themselves or their station or their situation or position within the organization. The top priority is the success of the organization as a whole. And finally, specifically, motivational leader language paired with a supportive environment can and often does lead to creativity and innovation in the workplace. Finally, I'll end with implications for leadership research. The two key points that we took away here were work with situations and events as units of analysis in order to understand individuals and organizations as being mutually forming and formed. What I mean here is that uh, when the leadership is involved and cognizant of the culture of the individuals being led, or the masses within the organization, um, the organization is more likely to be successful and perceived as a healthy work environment. Secondly, um, as far as the leader to the organizational member, or the leader to the organizational member relations, in particular, motivational supportive communication, it it needs to be further investigated to analyze trends and results in workplace creativity and innovation. Or specifically, we really need to understand the dynamic, or the connection between uh, an invested and motivational leader, um, in terms of open lines of communication with the individuals involved in the organization, with the success of, or the creativity, um, and innovation manifested within the organization. Okay, so that about does it. We're going to finish up uh, with a few recommended readings. So these 8 articles sort of align with what I've been discussing, and thank you for your time.